Cute. I think this candle's on the fritz. I won't even lie. Hi, welcome to this channel. My name is Brielle. I would say if you're new here, but you're definitely new here because this is the very first video on this channel. This is my debut to authortube. If you don't already know me, this is my second channel. I have a main channel that is more just lifestyle focused, a lot more general. It's called Briellejcruz. But if you're coming over from that channel, hey, hi, hello. The vibes over here are going to be a little bit different, but I'm excited to get into it. So I'm doing NaNoWriMo this year for like literally the first time ever. I've never participated in a nano and I'm really excited actually. I'm a little intimidated, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you're not familiar with NaNoWriMo, it is National Novel Writing Month and it's essentially a writing challenge where you try to write 50,000 words in the month of November, aka draft a novel. People do all sorts of variations of NaNoWriMo. There's no like right or wrong way to do it. So this video is going to be broken down into a few parts. First, I want to do a very brief little synopsis of where I'm at in my writing journey, what story I'm going to be working on for Nano. So a little bit about the book project that I'm working on. I'm planning to do weekly NaNoWriMo vlogs. So I want to clue you guys into what I'm going to be working on in those videos. And then we're going to set some goals for Nano, some things I want to work towards. And I think we're going to set ambitious goals and more realistic goals. We're going to create a whole special Notion page to track my Nano progress. I'm filming this at night in my apartment. I don't usually film at night. And to be honest, I was trying to wait until the weekend so I could film this in proper daylight, but I'm gonna be so fucking real. I was so excited about starting up this channel and talking about writing that like I couldn't help myself. So that's why we're filming at night. And also, let's be real, like if I'm gonna be making writing content, a lot of it is probably gonna be filmed in this more like cozy nighttime setup, especially because I do work a full-time job. So writing during the day, especially during the week, is not really an option for me. So I'm gonna be doing a lot of nighttime writing. Also, this is a strawberry matcha latte if you were curious. So let's talk a little bit about my writing journey, how I got to this point, and why I decided to make this writing channel. So I have not actually written a proper book pretty much since high school, with the exception of a small project that I did in college. I don't even know how many chapters of that I wrote, but I didn't get very far into it, right? So for the most part, I basically haven't written since high school. Back in, I think it was late middle school, early high school, I was on a website called Miss Literati. If any of you have heard of this, please tell me. I've not heard anyone talk about it. It was essentially Wattpad, but like knockoff version. And that was really where I found my stride in writing, sort of. I mean, I was still young, right? So I'm not claiming that work was any good, but it was kind of the first times that I experienced writing several stories, coming up with characters, and attempting to write novels. This was very much a phase of me starting a ton of different stories and not finishing them. I don't think that's surprising. I think a lot of young writers do this. You know, you don't really have discipline or like any sense of finishing things at that stage. So naturally, I was hopping around from idea to idea. Whenever I got sick of an idea or got stuck in a story, I would just move on to the next. So I only actually finished one book, and I say that with hesitation because it was the first book that I wrote and it was really short. It was probably not even novella length. It was like 10K words. So I don't even count that as finishing a book because that's not a full-length novel, but that was the only project that I ever wrote start to finish. Don't even think I revised it. Literally just wrote it out, no planning, no outline, just went for it and never touched it again. Like I said, I wrote 8 or so chapters of a book in college that was I guess it was a contemporary coming of age young adult story. I did actually write that on Wattpad. Didn't like promo it or anything. It didn't get any reads, but I just wanted somewhere where I could put the book under a fake name, of course. I kind of lost steam with that story. 1, I didn't have a very good idea of where it was going. I had a premise, but that was about it. 2, I was writing about a young boy. I think he was middle school age, and basically in the book he gets recruited into this cooler high school friend group. So there's content about drugs and drinking, and it's all in a very lighthearted tone. Like it's not seriously addressing those topics, but I was just like, basically I realized that that book was aggressively unmarketable, and not even like I was thinking about putting it out, but like to the point where I was like, I don't even know who this book is for. Like, would I even go for a book with this sort of premise? And I don't think I would. I went to film school for college, and this sort of coming of age story was very popular in film school, and I think that that's where that idea was coming from. But I realized this isn't really the genre of book I think I would want to write. So I went away from writing again for several years, and now I'm 24 years old. I am living in LA, I have a full-time job, and I'm essentially resurrecting my dream of being a writer again. It wasn't something that I had in the plans. If you had told me at the beginning of this year that I was going to try to write a book, I would have said you were crazy. But here I am, and honestly it feels like a very full circle moment, because when I was younger, being an author was the dream, and for years it's been very dormant. I haven't been doing anything with it, and now I'm bringing it back. So how do we get to the point now where I want to write again? Essentially, I started watching authortube. So maybe like a year ago, I started watching some author creators. It started out with me just watching Sarah LeBrot, very randomly got into her videos. Then I started watching a bunch of other creators. So some of my favorites are Kate's Book Date, Chris MF, and Kelly Tai. And I was just consuming all this authortube content, not really thinking twice about it, but for some reason found it very interesting. My subconscious was like, girl, I didn't think anything of it. I still didn't think I was interested in writing. Fast forward, I really started getting into specifically Kate's Book Date, and she talks a lot about self-publishing. So she's a self-published author. I think she has like 10 or so books out, and I got super invested in her journey with self-publishing and just fascinated and loved hearing about her books, loved hearing about the numbers, about her self-publishing process, all of it, and got so invested. And I was just like, this looks fun. This looks fun. All of it looks fun to me. The writing, the publishing, I'm just like re-captivated by this thing that I used to find very, very cool. Add to that the fact that I started reading again. I got very into the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, which I'm literally wearing a sweatshirt for right now. And that really re-sparked my love for fantasy and fiction. And so that was kind of the perfect storm of me being like, I'm loving this authortube content, I'm reading again and falling back in love with fantasy. I want to write a fantasy book. So that's how we got here. And I thought it would be really fun to document the whole process. I have a main channel, right? Brielle Juliet. It has about 2,000 subscribers at this point, and I've been grinding on that channel for a very long time. And I thought that if I really wanted to share this journey, I just needed a fresh channel. I don't want to harm that channel in any way by putting writing content on there. That's not what people have necessarily subscribed for. So I want to form my own audience for the writing content over here. So that's why I decided to basically create this Brielle Writes channel. Also, just want to make a disclaimer that like a lot of this is very new to me. It's stuff that I've just picked up from listening to other people talk about it. So if I have something wrong, if I use a term incorrectly, feel free to very kindly correct me in the comments, and just keep in mind that I'm well aware that I'm new to all of this. Thank you. Okay, moving on. So the fantasy project that I'm working on now, I have nicknamed Project The Wall. I'm currently about 15,000 words into the rough draft of this project, and that is the project that I'm going to be focusing on for NaNoWriMo. It is my first book that I'm ever writing as an adult. I'm determined that it's going to be the first full-length novel that I finish. Come hell or high water, no matter how much of a mess it turns into, I'm gonna finish this book. And not only do I want to finish this book, I want to take this book through every single step of the process. Whether I choose to release it or not, doesn't matter. I want to go through every single step as if I were going to self-publish this book, because I want to learn what that process looks like. Best way to learn is by doing. So I want to take this book from first draft through revisions to an editor, get a cover design for it, and eventually have a physical copy in my hand. So I really want to capture that entire process from rough draft to finished copy on this channel. So that's what my content is going to be about, as well as just some like beginner writer type of things, trying to basically learn the basics of writing, because when I was writing stories when I was younger, I didn't care about plot structure, character growth, consistency, plot holes. None of that was on my radar. I was just writing my silly little dreamy book boyfriends without a second thought about any of that. So I think it'll be interesting to talk a little bit about that too, and what I'm learning throughout the process of trying to write this book. So let's talk a little bit about about the project. So like I said, the project is nicknamed Project the Wall. It is a fantasy project. I think it is going to be a fantasy romance, though I haven't gotten to writing the romance part yet, so I can't say for sure how big of a part the romance plot is going to play in the book, so TBD, but as of right now, I think it's going to be a fantasy romance. I don't think it's going to be young adult. I would guess it's either going to be adult or new adult. The characters are around 20-ish years old. I really do want to be able to put some spice and language in there, so I foresee it being probably an adult novel. I'm trying to figure out how much I'm willing to share about the book project. I would like for you guys to have a general idea, because if you're going to be invested in me working on it, I feel like you should know a bit of what the project is like. So in terms of like tropes, I guess I would say there's a tiny bit of forced proximity. It's a journey book, so the entire book follows the three most main characters on a journey to the wall. Hence, the nickname is Project the Wall. So that's basically what I'm referring to the book as for the purpose of talking about it. That's not actually the title. Although I gotta say, I have no ideas for the title, so if it ends up being called The Wall, I wouldn't be too surprised. I would also say that there's like a tiny bit of maybe enemies to lovers. I hesitate to use the word enemies, but it's definitely like bantery towards the beginning of the romance plot that then turns into romance. There's obviously magic, hence it being a fantasy book, but there's also sort of dystopian vibes, like a bit of a deteriorated society, very strict government. So our main characters are named Rhea and Varen, and the two of them end up going on this journey together. They bring along Rhea's best friend, Briar. So the book is really following the three of them on this journey. Like I said, Varen is a prince and his father is the pretty evil ruler of the land where they all live. And rumor has it that beyond this wall, there's this sort of idyllic society that still has magic. Magic is kind of obsolete where they're from. So that's the basic premise. I'm not going to go into any more details because one, I don't want to spoil it, but two, all of this is very subject to change, right? I'm very early in the drafting process, so those are the details that I feel like most likely won't change and just kind of give you a vibe for the story. So like I said, I'm currently 15,000 words into the draft. We're not going to get into too much detail about the writing process because I want to get into that more in a preptober video that I'm going to do. So preptober is essentially when you prepare for NaNoWriMo in October. So I'm going to do an entire video setting up my story in Scrivener. Currently I've been writing in Notion, which I'm not even going to lie, it's not ideal. It's been a bit of a pain. So we're going to switch everything over to Scrivener in that preptober video. So that's what will be coming next after this. Okay, so now you know the project that I'm working on, this fantasy book called Project the Wall. You have a general idea of what my writing history is, where I'm coming to this book project from. Now we get into the beef and potatoes of this video, which is essentially setting my NaNoWriMo goals and making a little Notion page to keep track of all of it. So let's get into that. So like I said, I've been working on this project exclusively in Notion so far. So that is this little paperclip section that you're seeing right here. We'll discuss that more in the Preptober video, but right now we're just gonna create a new page for my NaNoWriMo goals. Lovely. Let's add a cute little cover. So I'm going to create two sections here. One is going to be for my reach goals, and then a second section for realistic goals. Not a fan of the all caps. Let's fix that. Okay, cool. And then let's just go ahead and create little to-do boxes. So in terms of my reach goals, obviously one of them is going to be to write 50K words in the month of November. That is the general rule for NaNoWriMo. That's like what the challenge technically is supposed to be as far as I'm aware. So obviously we have to at least try for that, right? Write 50K words in the month of November. I'm gonna be really for real, as much as I would love to achieve that, I don't think it's very likely for several reasons. I am not an experienced drafter. I'm figuring all this out as I go. Also, one of the sort of common pieces of advice you hear for NaNoWriMo or just drafting quickly in general is to not edit as you go, aka like don't go back, don't edit previous chapters, just keep steamrolling to get the draft done. I don't think that I'm fully going to subscribe to that. I don't want to be like editing the nitty-gritty as I go. I'm definitely allowing myself myself to skip over sections that are giving me trouble, things like that. However, I feel like if I notice something blatantly wrong that needs to be fixed, I would rather do that before I continue. Otherwise, all the stuff I write after that is not going to be usable. For example, the last time I did a writing session, I noticed that one of my characters was like completely losing her personality after the first few chapters she appeared in. That's one of those things that I feel like I need to go back and fix so that I can move forward with clarity about what her personality is. It was the secondary female character. I felt like she was kind of just morphing into the same personality as the main character, so their lines were kind of interchangeable. Like either one of them could have said it, and I really want to fix that before I continue. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to do an insane overhaul and revision, and I would rather not do that. There's gonna be enough to fix, okay? Anyway, I think I could see that slowing me down, things that I need to figure out with plot, maybe having to backtrack a little when I realize certain things about my story. I've certainly had to do that where I realize, oh, I actually want this to happen later. Let me go back and take it out of the previous chapter. And I feel like some of those things are just easier to address when I notice them, honestly. Plus, I have to acknowledge that I juggle a lot of different things in my life. In addition to having a full-time corporate job, I also run my main YouTube channel. I'm going to be trying to upload once a week on this channel for the month of November. Not to mention I also have singing, which I do every single week. There's just a lot on my plate, so I want to be realistic about the amount of time that I have to write as well. And last but not least, I don't even know if there's 50k words left in this rough draft. I'm definitely an underwriter. I've learned this very much so in the process of drafting this book. Essentially, I have a feeling my rough draft is going to be pretty short, and I'm going to have to beef up a lot of the details and descriptions in my second draft. So like I said, I already have 15k words. Who knows if this rough draft would even be 65k words. So one of the more realistic goals that I'm gonna set is to get to 50k words total in my project by the end of November, aka writing 35k words this month. I think that's substantially more realistic. That would be just slightly over 1,000 words a day. Still kind of ambitious, but probably more realistic. I've been noticing in my writing sessions that I'm typically writing about 1,000, maybe 1,500 words, and that's like 2 hours of writing for me. So yeah, I can't foresee it being easy to do more than that every day. Little concerned. Now again, it's really hard for me to know how long this overall first draft is gonna be until I get there, but I think it could be a cool reach goal to just say to complete my rough draft of PTW, Project The Wall, I've been abbreviating as PTW, by the end of November. And then I think for some other realistic goals, I think it could be cool to get PTW set up in Scrivener, plus create a proper outline, world building sheet, and story structure breakdown. I don't have any of that like solidly complete. Like I said, I have a lot of miscellaneous notes, but I haven't thought about it in terms of like 3-act structure, inciting incident, midpoint, like all that stuff. And I also would really like to flesh out some of the world building, the government, the magic system, all of that. It would be really cool if I could set those things up in Scrivener, and I don't even need to fill it all out, just having those documents ready to roll, because I feel like I'm learning a lot of these things and a lot of the details through the writing process. I feel like my writing has been very much discovery writing. I'm finding out little facts about how the society works and the characters as I go. So those are the goals and the project that I'm going to be tackling for NaNoWriMo. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This sort of more laid back, very chatty, long form style is really what you can expect from this channel. It's not going to be as curated or as like snappy as I try to make my main channel videos, because this is really just a space for us to like chill and talk about writing and share my journey. Definitely be sure to subscribe if you want to stick around for the Nano content. All right, I'm gonna finish up this strawberry matcha, and honestly, I need to get to bed soon. It's literally 10:30 on a Tuesday. I was that excited to film this that I'm filming at 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. Peace.